Now here comes the politics. The king of France in the time we're talking about, 1307, is a man by the name of Philip IV. He's also called Philip the Fair because of his countenance, not because of his justice. He owes the Knights Templars some money. Then he needs more money because he has to get a dowry for his daughter who's going to get married. Well, he thinks, how am I ever going to pay back the terrible amount of money that I owe to the Knights Templar? He said, I got an idea. It's a diabolical idea, even for the 14th century. He said, we will have all the Knights Templar declared heretics. Once they're declared heretics, then we can burn them at the stake, and we can take their lands and their gold and all their cash. Great idea. That solves my problem. I don't owe them any money anymore. There's a catch. Knights Templars are licensed, that is, they owe their fealty, they would say in medieval times, their loyalty, their fealty, not to the king, but to the Pope. Well, now he has to buy a Pope. Oddly enough, purchasing a Pope in the 14th century was easier than you think. The papacy at that time was being fought over by two Roman Italian families, the Orsinis and the Colonnas. Each time one of the families would get one of their relatives elected to the papacy, the other one would assassinate the Pope. So the last two popes at the time we're talking about had died suddenly, one by poisoning and the other was strangled in his prison cell. So being a pope wasn't all that good because, first of all, your insurance company canceled your life policy immediately. But Philip IV needs a pope. So he packs, by means of bribes, the College of Cardinals, which does the electing of popes, and he packs it with 5 Frenchmen. Guess what? They elect a French pope. Now, the French pope is a guy who was a nothing. He was not even a cardinal. He was a bishop of Bordeaux. He has no idea what he's supposed to do. He gets a name, Clement V, and Philip of France says, just shut up and do what I tell you. Just okay. So first thing I'm going to tell you to do is it's dangerous for an Italian to be a pope in Rome, but to be a Frenchman in Rome, it is suicidal. You'll last a couple days. So I'm going to whisk you out of Rome, which he did. He set him up, and he set up the papacy in Avignon, in Provence, in southern France. And then he built that beautiful cathedral for the papacy in Avignon, which is, you can still see to this day. He brought the Curia over, he brought all the College of Cardinals over, and he said, all right, this is where the papacy is going to be, in my hometown of Avignon. That solved his problem as far as the Templars were concerned. Now he had a pope who would do what he was supposed to do. With that, he summoned the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, a man by the name of Jacques de Molay. He's on the Isle of Cyprus. He said, oh boy, I got an audience with the Pope. I bet I know what he wants. I bet he's going to honor me for the wonderful work that the Templars did in the Crusades. So he puts on his fancy Templar's robe, which is a white robe with a red cross on it. He wears the golden sword. He comes before the Pope at Avignon, and immediately he is thrown in chains. He's carted back up to Paris, where they declare him a heretic, and he is burned at the stake. Then Philip sprung the trap. He found all the other powerful Knights Templar in France and imprisoned them on a prearranged morning in October of 1307. He took them and he tortured and whipped them until they confessed before the newly created Inquisition, and then he made them confess to whatever, heresy, sodomy, satanic worship. Then they executed them after he found out where their money was. It was a diabolical plot, even for 14th century. But the interesting thing is that as King Philip had declared Jacques de Molay a heretic, and as he started to burn at the stake with a great crowd of Parisians watching, he called out a curse upon the Pope and on Philip IV and on France. The curse was the curse of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. As we doubtless know, that is death, famine, war, and plague. And believe it or not, the curse worked, because by 1337, the Great 100 Years' War had begun in France, and that brought about a terrible 50-year famine, which brought about a great deal of death, and in 1347 the Black Plague invaded France. As for the remaining Knights Templar, they went underground. They kept on as a secret society, but went on through the centuries as an underground secret society. Many of them worked building palaces and churches, and they eventually emerged in the 18th century to call themselves the largest existing worldwide fraternity. It is called to this day the Order of Free and Accepted Masons, or simply Freemasons. Its subset is the ancient Arabic Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, or Shriners. Its junior membership to this day is still called the Order of Des Mollets. So the Knights Templar eventually becomes the Masonic Order, and they are at enmity with kings. After all, when Louis XVI was executed during the French Revolution, that was the great cry that went up. Des Mollets is finally vindicated. And of course, they've always had an antipathy to the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church does to the Masonic Order. But it goes back to the treachery which the King and the Pope worked on the Knights Templar.